The kitchen of the Langford Grand Hotel bustled with precision as chefs plated hors d'oeuvres for my mother's 60th birthday gala. I sat quietly at a small folding table in the back, tucked between a freezer and a rack of imported champagne. Just where my brother, Brandon, thought I belonged. He swept through the double doors with a champagne flute in one hand and that signature smirk plastered across his face. "Comfortable with your people?" he said, motioning to the staff like they were extras in a play. "Though I must admit, this is a step up from your usual co-working spaces. What do you call it again? Your startup dungeon?" I gave him a polite smile, smoothing my simple black dress handmade by a Japanese designer whose work was nearly impossible to get, unless you were on a very specific billionaire waitlist. I opened my phone discreetly under the table. Patent approved. Quantum neural system cleared for commercial use. Valuation expected to climb 45%. Current net worth, $8.9 billion. The message from my CFO blinked back at me. "It's just an office, Brandon," I murmured, pretending to read a text. "Nothing fancy," he chuckled, oblivious. "Well, Goldman Sachs is always hiring analysts if this little app dream of yours doesn't work out. Something real, something respectable." I recalled the meeting I had last week, not with an analyst but with the CEO of Goldman Sachs, who had begged to handle Lynx Systemic's IPO. The same little dream that had just received military clearance for its proprietary AI logistics engine. But Brandon didn't need to know that. "Not yet, thanks. I'll keep that in mind," I said, just as our mother's voice boomed through the doors. "Celeste, are you still hiding in the kitchen? The Whitmores are asking about you." The Whitmores, of Whitmore Capital, the firm that had sent my executive assistant 5 urgent emails just last month trying to secure a meeting with the elusive CEO of Lynx Systemics. They didn't know I was the woman currently being dismissed as unpresentable at my own mother's birthday. "Let them wait," Brandon snorted. "Better they assume you're sick than hear you're still chasing that AI fantasy." His words bounced off the stainless steel walls. I stared at him, the man who once told me I had wasted my MIT degree when I left Morgan, Price and Behrman's graduate program. I hadn't left out of failure. I'd left because I had just written the core architecture for Lynx's neural language engine, the one now licensed to 6 governments and 27 private companies. Another ping on my phone. "Acquisition finalized. You now own 51% of Morgan, Price and Behrman. Your brother's department is flagged for restructuring at tomorrow's board meeting." I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. Brandon, so proud of his vice president title, would wake up tomorrow to find that his little sister was his boss, still sipping from a glass of Krug he didn't pay for. He nodded toward my dress. "Did you at least try to look decent? I mean, the catering staff is better dressed than you." This dress cost more than his car, but he wouldn't know a bespoke piece if it punched him. "This is the best I could do, Brandon," I said mildly. "The best she could do," he parroted to our mother who had just walked in. "Just like that so-called tech company she started after dropping out of the real world." "Actually, I left," I said calmly, "to build something that mattered." Neither of them knew that at this very moment, major tech exchanges were on standby for the Forbes announcement revealing the founder of Lynx Systemics. My face hidden until now behind shell corporations, a pseudonym, and decoy executives, would be splashed across every business outlet within the hour. "Miss Carter," a voice said in my earpiece. "Lisa, my chief of security. The Forbes article is queued. Reveal scheduled for 30 minutes. Financial channels are prepping exclusive coverage. Stock freeze expected upon release." I tucked a lock of hair behind my ear. 30 minutes until the world knew. Mother wrinkled her nose. "Celeste, please don't embarrass me. This isn't a computer club meeting. The Whitmores will think you're some intern." "I'll try to behave," I said, rising from my seat. "Still taking the subway, I assume?" Brandon quipped. "I suppose it keeps you humble." "What did you call it? Field testing?" The subway line was actually one of my company's primary test beds, a network of fully autonomous, AI-regulated transit systems. Lynx's prototype just got greenlit for smart city integration. I had been field testing, just not in the way they thought. "Celeste," Lisa whispered urgently, "update. Quantum system leak suspected. Media scrambling. Possible early drop. Prepare for identity reveal in 10 minutes. Brandon smirked. "Well, if the tech thing fails, I hear the kitchen is hiring. Could always come back here." I gave him a cool smile. "That's kind of you, Brandon. Really, always so supportive." Through the kitchen window, I watched my father raise a glass, probably toasting Brandon's recent promotion. He had no idea that his daughter now owned the firm that signed Brandon's checks. The next buzz made the room feel electric. Forbes headline confirmed. Upload live in 8 minutes. Photo authorized. CEO of Lynx Systemics identified. Celeste Carter. I stood perfectly still as the noise of the kitchen faded behind me. Brandon clinked glasses with a board member. My mother barked instructions at the caterers. None of them knew what was coming, but they would, very, very soon. The hum of the industrial refrigerator behind me was the only steady sound in the kitchen. Everything else had begun to shift subtly, like the first tremors of an earthquake. My earpiece buzzed again. 6 minutes, Lisa's voice came through calmly. We've confirmed media outlets are queuing the story. All major stock tickers will reflect the news within 90 seconds of release. I casually picked up a linen napkin from the counter and folded it slowly, methodically, like I used to do at family events when no one would let me near the important conversations. Folding napkins, carrying coats, pouring drinks. For years, that had been my expected role. Not anymore. Celeste, my mother said sharply as she entered the kitchen again, her diamond necklace catching the overhead light. Why are you still here? The Whitmores are asking for you by name. For some reason, they seem quite insistent. I bit back a smile. Of course they were. Coming, mother, I said smoothly. I took one last glance at my phone, its lock screen now flashing with alerts from media outlets, private investors, and an urgent text from Bloomberg, requesting interview. Confirmed. Carter identified as Lynx Systemics CEO. Lisa's voice came again. 5 minutes. And just a heads up, your latest valuation is now $10.1 billion. The quantum neural system is being called the biggest leap in AI since ChatGPT. You'll be trending by the time you walk out those doors. I turned to follow my mother, stepping toward the swinging doors that separated the kitchen from the ballroom. But just as I reached them, Brandon reappeared, his voice raised and overly confident as he addressed a waiter. Careful with those flutes, he said, plucking one from the tray like he was the hotel manager. The guests in ballroom. I expect 5-star service. Speaking of guests, he said, catching sight of me. Mother's still waiting. Or are you too busy texting your 2 users on that app of yours? Actually, I replied, I was just chatting with one of the investors you mentioned earlier. Brandon cocked his head. Which one? Whitmore's. He laughed. You? Celeste. The Whitmores don't invest in fantasy. I simply smiled and let him walk away. Let him have the moment. He wouldn't have many more. My phone buzzed again. Final confirmation. Lynx Systemics founder is Celeste Carter. Upload in 90 seconds. Prepare for visibility shift. I took a deep breath, brushed invisible lint off my dress, and pushed through the kitchen doors. The ballroom shimmered with candlelight, gold accents, and walls decked with roses and mother's signature ivory and blush palette. It was the kind of celebration where no one noticed the staff, but everyone noticed who wasn't seated at the front tables. I moved along the perimeter, unnoticed, just as I liked it. For now, from the corner of the room, I spotted my father, tall, commanding, completely unaware that his daughter had just triggered the biggest story in tech this year. He raised a glass toward Brandon, who was mid-toast, surrounded by eager onlookers. I'm proud to introduce the Vice President of Digital Investment Strategy at Morgan, Price and Behrman, my father said, beaming. Brandon Carter, a man who understands real success in the real world. I heard someone at the table whisper, is that his sister over there? She's the one who dropped out, right? Dropped out. That had always been the narrative. She couldn't handle Wall Street. She couldn't hack the grind. She gave up. I stared straight ahead, unbothered. My grip tightened on my phone as Lisa's voice returned in my earpiece. 30 seconds. Forbes will lead with your MIT dropout story by choice, followed by the neural system patent, military contracts, smart transit expansion. You'll break 3 financial records before dessert. The room suddenly hushed. Not because of me, not yet, but because everyone's phones began to buzz. Buzz again, then ping, and again. I could hear the confusion ripple. What the hell is this? Someone muttered from the corner table. Brandon's phone lit up on the linen tablecloth. He casually glanced at it mid-sentence, then stopped cold. The smirk faded. His hands trembled. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. My mother, seated nearby, leaned toward him. Brandon? He didn't respond. Instead, he slowly turned, his phone toward her. On the screen, Forbes exclusive, secret founder of Lynx Systemics, revealed. Celeste Carter becomes youngest self-made tech billionaire after quantum breakthrough. Gasps, murmurs, chairs scraping against marble. Every guest in the room reached for their phones in near-synchronization. It was happening. Lisa's voice again, calm as ever. Media confirmation complete. CNBC, Bloomberg, Reuters, and Financial Times now leading with your story. Net worth now $11.7 billion and climbing. Brandon stood up like he'd been burned, eyes searching the crowd. His phone buzzed violently in his hand. He saw me then standing near the catering table, poised like a thunderstorm on the edge of calm. Celeste, he said, blinking. All I did was raise an eyebrow. The ballroom doors burst open and the Whitmores walked in, not with the casual stride of party guests, but the laser focus of people trying to find someone specific. They found me. Miss Carter, Mr. Whitmore said breathlessly. I believe we owe you an apology. Mother looked from Brandon to me, and back again, her expression caught between horror and denial. What is happening? I held up my phone, which now showed my face splashed across 5 different networks. Just one of my computer games, I said softly. Apparently I play them well. The entire ballroom pulsed with tension. The music had stopped. Servers stood frozen with trays midair. Guests whispered in urgent tones, some rushing to confirm the headline on their phones, others simply gawking at me like I'd morphed into a stranger. I hadn't changed. They were just finally seeing me. Brandon stumbled toward me, phone still in hand, the headline glowing from its screen like a beacon of disbelief. This is a joke, he said, shaking his head. Someone's trolling. You. There's no way you're the CEO of Lynx. I turned to face him, calm, composed, and unbothered. Brandon, that little app company you've mocked for years just became the largest privately held tech firm on the West Coast. And as of this morning, it owns 51% of your employer. He blinked, visibly trying to process the words. Morgan, Price and Behrman. He asked, stunned. Yep, I said with a smile. We finalized the acquisition just before the party. You've technically been working for me since 9:03 a.m. He stared down at his name badge, a gleaming gold rectangle that suddenly felt like a joke. Impossible, he muttered. You dropped out. You worked out of cafes. You lived in that showbox apartment, I nodded slowly, where I built the first neural training model. And that showbox is the penthouse wing of Lynx Tower now. I just kept the street-level entrance. It made me less visible. Mother appeared beside him, her voice sharp. Is this some kind of publicity stunt, Celeste? We're hosting the Whitmores. This isn't the time for your games, Mrs. Whitmore stepped in. Her demeanor completely shifted from the last time I'd seen her, when she referred to me as Brandon's little sister who plays with tech toys. Celia, Miss Carter, she corrected herself quickly. I can assure you this is exactly the time. We'd be honored to discuss a potential investment opportunity with Lynx. I had no idea. You didn't need to, I said smoothly. Most people didn't. Behind her, the ballroom's massive wall-mounted screens flickered to life. Bloomberg, CNBC, Reuters, all running simultaneous coverage. Breaking. Celeste Carter revealed as founder of Lynx Systemics. Quantum computing breakthrough set to reshape global finance. My father pushed through the crowd now, his face flushed and grim. Celeste, he barked. What is this circus? I held his gaze. It's called success, Dad. The real kind. You humiliated us, he snapped. Your mother's birthday. Our family's reputation, I elevated it, I said evenly. You're just uncomfortable because you didn't orchestrate it. He faltered for a moment, then turned to Brandon. Say something. This is your field. She can't just buy a bank. Brandon looked like he was trying not to vomit. I didn't need to say anything else. Lisa's voice chimed in my ear again. Net worth updated. $12.4 billion. News engagement spiking. Foreign governments requesting briefings. Your security team is prepped. I stepped forward. The room parted like water. The hotel manager appeared, nervous and wide-eyed. Miss Carter, would you prefer to move to the VIP lounge? No, I said firmly. The kitchen suits me fine. That answer made its way across the room in seconds. People began whispering. She's been in the kitchen all night? She chose that? She's the one who built Lynx? No way. Across the ballroom, I saw Mr. Levinson, my former supervisor at Morgan, Price and Behrman. The man who told me I was too soft-spoken for leadership. He was sweating through his suit, whispering frantically into his phone. I could guess what the conversation was. What do we do now? She owns the firm. The Whitmores looked almost giddy. Now, we'd love to reschedule that meeting we once declined. I gave them a polite nod. Have Sarah contact your office. Mother grabbed my wrist gently, her face pale. Celeste, you could have told us. You wouldn't have listened, I replied. You used to sit in the coach room during galas, while running beta tests on a secure satellite prototype. I said, I remember. You asked me to avoid the lobby so I wouldn't embarrass Brandon's clients. Father stepped forward again. There's still time to bring this under the family name. We can restructure things. You can merge under the Carter Trust. Lynx isn't merging with anything, I said. In fact, we're releasing a new financial platform next quarter, one that uses quantum logic to phase out traditional investment modeling. You're destroying everything we built. He said, no, I corrected. I'm replacing it. Because your version never included people like me. Brandon looked down at his badge again, then up at the screen still displaying my name. He finally whispered, we never gave you credit. Not once. I turned to him. No, and that's okay. I didn't need it, but now, you need me. He flinched. A waiter approached me shyly with a silver tray. Miss Carter, he said softly, would you like a glass of the reserve? I accepted it graciously and raised it toward my stunned family. To being underestimated, I said. It's the best advantage in the world. I had spent weeks planning the gala. On the surface, it was a charity auction for pediatric health, hosted at the city's grandest ballroom. But behind the glittering chandeliers and velvet drapes, I had engineered it as a convergence point where the people who once dismissed me would finally see who I really was. My dress was sleek, black silk with an asymmetrical neckline, modern, bold, and completely unlike the modest attire my mother used to criticize me for. Even the diamond studs in my ears were from my first bonus as CEO. Everything about me tonight was deliberate. As the guests poured in, investors, philanthropists, socialites, I moved through them with polite grace, accepting compliments with practiced ease. I could feel eyes lingering, puzzled. Wasn't that Elise Tran? Didn't she used to run a bakery or something? Miss Tran, came a familiar voice. I turned slowly. My cousin Natalie stood before me in a crimson gown, the kind that screamed desperation more than elegance. She blinked twice, then plastered on a smile. Wow, you look different. So do you? I said smoothly, offering a champagne flute. Still attending these for the photo ops? Her smile tightened. I heard a rumor that you're the major sponsor for this event? I gave a soft laugh. Oh no, not the sponsor. Relief briefly passed over her face. I'm the host. She nearly choked on her drink. I own the event company, the foundation it's tied to, and I paused to take a slow sip. The lease on this ballroom. Before she could gather herself, the MC took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Please welcome tonight's visionary, Elise Tran, founder of the Elevé Group. Gasps scattered across the room. As I stepped onto the stage, the spotlight fixed on me. I looked out at a sea of people who once called me insignificant, especially the front table where my mother, father, Marcus, and Natalie sat, their faces frozen in disbelief. I smiled. 3 years ago, I was told I was wasting my time, that no one would take me seriously, that dreams were for men with suits and trust funds. And maybe that was true. Until tonight. The applause that followed was loud and rising. Marcus looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. My mother clutched her clutch so hard her knuckles whitened. Natalie's eyes darted like a trapped deer. But I wasn't finished. Tonight, we announce a new initiative. Elevé Ventures will provide seed funding for minority women-owned businesses in underrepresented sectors. Because brilliance doesn't always wear a name tag or carry a pedigree. Sometimes it starts behind a pastry counter. Sometimes it sits quietly at family dinners, absorbing insults and planning silently. That last line hit home. I let it hang in the air, like perfume after a storm. Afterward, people swarmed me, CEOs asking for partnerships, media outlets requesting interviews, influencers begging for photo ops. Meanwhile, at the Tran family table, awkward silence bloomed like rot. Later, as I exited the ballroom to catch my breath on the terrace, I heard the familiar click of heels behind me. Elise, Marcus said stiffly. I turned, one eyebrow raised. Yes? He looked uncomfortable, out of place in his expensive suit. I didn't know you'd built something this big. No, you didn't. You were too busy sending me bakery coupons and helpful job listings for assistants. He flinched. Wanted to say congratulations, he said, though the words landed heavy and bitter. And maybe we could talk? Tran Holdings is struggling. We're losing major clients. Maybe I didn't let him finish. I'm well aware, I said coolly. In fact, one of those clients just signed with Elevé last week. He froze. I never wanted revenge, Marcus, I said. I wanted respect. But since the first was the only language you spoke, I learned to speak it fluently. As I walked back into the ballroom, head high, I knew there was only one act left in this story. The final reveal. The one I had been saving not just for my family but for myself. And it would come in 48 hours. The Tran Holdings emergency board meeting. 2 days later, I arrived at the Tran Holdings boardroom 5 minutes early. Not because I needed the time but because I wanted to see their faces as I walked in. The security guard at the front desk nodded without hesitation. I didn't need a guest badge. My clearance had already been processed through the new corporate systems I now controlled. Inside the boardroom, the scene was chaotic. Marcus was pacing at the head of the table. Natalie sat across from him, whispering urgently into her phone. My father, arms crossed, stared at the whiteboard full of numbers. He clearly didn't understand. Revenue was down 43%. Key partners had withdrawn. Their reputation was flailing, and they had no idea the storm was about to end with me. The door opened. I stepped inside, dressed in a crisp navy suit. No makeup tricks, no couture gown, just the woman they underestimated for over a decade. Walking in like she'd owned the room all along. Marcus looked up and actually blinked. Elise? His voice cracked. What are you doing here? I sat down slowly. I believe I'm expected. My father scowled. This is a board meeting, not a family reunion. The board members looked between each other awkwardly. That's when Mr. Patel, their largest independent shareholder, cleared his throat. She's here as the new majority owner of Tran Holdings. The room went dead silent. I don't understand, my father said, voice rising. That's impossible. The family owns the majority. Patel shook his head. You did. Over the last 3 months, Elevé Capital, one of Elise Tran's holding firms, has acquired your debts, absorbed your defaults, and quietly bought out the smaller shareholders. As of this morning, Elevé owns 64% of Tran Holdings. Marcus stood, fists clenched. You manipulated us. You planned this. No, I said quietly. You did. You created this moment the day you told me to stay out of grown-up business. The day you mocked my bakery as cute. The day you uninvited me from every family meeting while expecting me to cook for them like a servant. Natalie's voice trembled. You want to humiliate us? I looked at her. I want to save what's left of this company. And to do that, some things need to change. I pulled out a document. Marcus, effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties as acting CEO. Natalie, your role as VP of branding is dissolved. The marketing team under your supervision has cost the company millions. She gasped. My father stood. You can't fire your own family. I met his eyes. You're right, I can't. I leaned back in my chair. But the board can. And now I am the board. One by one, the other directors nodded. Patel looked almost relieved as he signed the resolution. I turned toward the window. The skyline gleamed like opportunity. I'm not here to destroy our name, I continued. I'm here to rebuild it, but it will be rebuilt my way. Transparent, ethical, and inclusive. No more nepotism. No more backroom deals. I stood. The Tran name will finally mean something again. And this time, it'll be because the daughter you dismissed made it so. I walked out of the room. To the sound of stunned silence, outside, my assistant waited with my schedule. Your car's ready, Miss Tran. You're due at the ribbon cutting for the new Elevé Innovation Center. As we drove off, I looked back one last time at the building that once felt like a palace. I'd never enter. Now, it was just another asset, not my throne, not my identity. Just one more reminder that when someone tries to write you out of your own story, you write a better one, and sign it in your own name, Elise Tran.